Hello and welcome to the Libertarian Show. Today I am super pleased to announce I've got a good friend coming on the show with us, Rico Rants, and he's got a great YouTube channel, a lot of interesting conversations with a lot of interesting people. I've been enjoying listening to it and watching it, and I think you guys too. There's going to be a link in the description below to his channel. Rico, one more time, do you want to give us a quick who you are and what you're about?
No problem. Yeah, my name is Rico Baker, but YouTube moniker and all that is Rico Rants. I got a YouTube channel. I got lots of videos of just my individually talking politics, society, and culture, and whatever geeky thing I like. And then I got a bunch of a little side section, podcasty section I called Rendezvous with Rico, where I talk to a bunch of different people about different subjects every Sunday or every other Sunday. Right now I'm on hiatus because it's currently going through a bit of a transitional period, so it's gonna be a minute before I can get back in the game. But I've got plenty of content for y'all to check out if y'all are interested in doing so.
Awesome, thanks. And he absolutely does have a lot of great content. I was scrolling through all the videos he's got in there. He's got great monologues, really interesting conversations with a wide variety of guests. He touches on all kinds of topics, politics, society, relationships, and a lot of other topics that I haven't even had the pleasure to watch yet. So everyone check it out. And also, I want to talk about a charity that Rico's been telling everybody about, the Habitat for Humanity of Craven County, North Carolina, specifically the Neighborhood Revitalization Committee. If you can donate and to a worthy cause, please do so. There's going to be a link in the description for that charity as well. Rico, do you want to tell us a little bit more about that charity and what it's all about?
Yeah, no problem. Well, actually, the short version basically is that what we're doing is, as it sounds, a neighborhood revitalization. Right now we're focusing on the the lowest income neighborhoods in our respective county and our neighboring county, to try to, we're going to buy lots to build houses, fix up houses that are currently there. Do beautification onto the neighborhoods. We basically want to increase the quality of life of the people that are already there and make the place more appealing to get more people to move there, because that's a lot of the issue is, as with a lot of lower income neighborhoods, as the issue is that, people leave, in which then subsequently makes things worse. There's less money going around for everything. So we're trying to fix these neighborhoods up and get more people up in there. Like right now, in tandem with the Neighborhood Revitalization Committee project, we have a housing homeless veterans project, where we're doing the same dice, where we're going to be buying up lots, building homes, and getting homeless veterans in the county, to get them housed in those neighborhoods. Housed and employed, to be clear, not just housed. We try to meet all people's needs. All people need to help them get what they need to be able to sustain themselves.
Nice. That sounds like a worthy cause to me, and I think all the viewers will agree. I don't think anyone here needs to be told that housing is kind of a precious commodity right now.
Yeah.
There's a shortage all around the country. It doesn't matter if you're in a big urban city or in the backwoods. It's kind of scarce. So the more resources that we have for housing, the better off everyone's going to be.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Nice, cool. So then, anyway, let's chat a bit, man. I'll tell you. I want to know. I want to know what inspired you to start your channel, because you seem to be interested in a wide variety of topics. I mean, for example, my channel, I tend to try to be pretty focused just on the whole capitalism versus socialism dichotomy. I've kind of narrowed it down, but I like you've got a bit more variety in your show. I find it really interesting. What inspired you and what motivates you to keep doing the show? Well, beyond the charity itself, it's obviously you're passionate about doing these kind of things. So how's that working?
I gotta say, it what motivated me to do it, I don't know. I felt like I had something worth a damn to say. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I struggle with imposter syndrome all the time, where I always kind of feel like,
yeah,
I'm not a genius. You know what I mean? I just have an associate's degree in general, associates of arts degree in general studies. You know
Uh-huh.
what I mean? I'm by no means a scholar on at anything,
Mm.
but just I'd watched so many people, you know, say some incredibly dumb shit or say things that were just so it just felt like so many people were just missing the mark, and I'm just like,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring and give it a shot. And I've been actually pretty good. The reception's actually been pretty well. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna just keep doing this. And so, well, here I am. And that's what inspired me to do the podcasting, talking to people thing was most. I enjoy talking to people. Like I don't get me wrong, I don't mind the monologues, short little monologue videos, but I really enjoy just sitting down and talking with people.
Mm.
A little back and forth about whatever specific thing or things they want to talk about. Because, like I said, with regards to me, is wide variety. Is that I would say I'm a master of none, but I understand a lot of shit. So at least broadly enough to be able to talk about it and kind of
Yeah.
build from there.
Yeah, hey, you're being really humble, man. I'll tell you what, the smartest people that I come across are the ones that know that they don't know nothing. You know what I mean?
You know what I'm saying? Look, I do not. I stress that. Like, I do not pretend to know the ins and out of everything. And I have my ideas. I have my conclusions, but I am open to being proven wrong. You can, like, by all means, if there's something I got wrong, if I got my facts wrong, if I got whatever the case may be, you are welcome to tell me. I am open to hear it. You know what I mean? Because I'm
Mm.
more interested in being right rather than appearing right. You know what I mean? I'd rather be right. So if I'm wrong, I want to be right. So correct me so I can be right.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely no dummy. From what I've gathered, what I've listened to so far on your videos, you got a lot of like a lot of common sense perspective. You know what I mean? And I'll be honest. Even though I'm Mr. Anarcho-capitalist and I don't necessarily agree with a lot of your conclusions and stuff, I definitely do agree with a lot of your logical thought processes, a lot of the perspectives that you have, and I appreciate them a lot. I find it interesting, the dichotomy. Honestly, one of the things that's fascinated me, man, about since I started this channel and since I've been arguing on the internet with strangers, right, is like because I want to come into it in a sense of like good faith, and when I encounter people that I'm like on the opposite side of the ideological divide, a lot of times I go, geez, man, this person is concerned about the same issues I'm concerned about. They see the same problems that I see. They want the same solutions that I want. Boy, isn't it funny how our proposed solutions can be so different?
Yeah.
And they'll say, oh, Aaron, your solutions are just going to lead to misery. And I'll be like, no, man, your solutions aren't going to work. Mine will work great. But, it's funny how that happens, man.
It is definitely engaging with random internet people has been something. It's been a treat,
Yeah.
to say the least. I have made sure that I have screenshotted some of the more if the just the things that stood out to me that I thought was some of the responses that are particularly funny. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, it is. You do have to sift through a lot of bad faith bullshit
Yeah.
because you want to find the people that genuinely are coming at you with good faith from an honest foundation, from foundation of honest engagement with whatever it is we're trying to talk about here. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's one thing to just if someone say, oh, you're wrong about this. Here's the facts as to why, and they're like, oh shit, my bad. You know what I mean? Versus somebody who's just, they absolutely refuse, almost like a dogmatic refusal to believe that they could possibly be wrong or just even a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah.
I'm like, you might be just a little bit off there, buddy. I think you should be
Mm.
open to engaging with that. And then there's just people who's just, it's, oh yeah. It's just some of the people whose framing is just like so deliberately dishonest. Like I was talking to somebody recently about like the Capitol, what happened on January 6th,
Oh, yeah.
and the way they would keep describing it would always be in this very vague, very kind of clearly they are refusing to describe it as exactly what it was. I actually have it right here so you can see it. Just so it's very short response, but it stood out to me. I'm just like, oh,
Just trying to
that's an
downplay it and
yeah. I'm like, that's an interesting way to describe what happened. Like here it is right here. Like this is how you know somebody's absolutely not engaging with good faith. He says
okay.
when I had him describe it. He said it was 2 hours of mayhem in a taxpayer-owned building. Oh, that's a interesting way to
Yeah.
describe that. What? Like that's very, very like that's a
Kind of
Really?
sugar coated, huh?
Oh, that certainly that was very specific. Very that really tells me you are gonna honestly assess anything else if you can't even acknowledge what that was.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh Lord. So that's what I mean. It's stuff like that where you learn to sift that shit out. Is where it's like, what? No, like, come
Hmm.
on now. If you expect me to believe you're operating in good faith, then you should be able to make an honest assessment of something that has a mountain of evidence that proves what happened. You know, but
Hmm.
no,
Hmm.
that type of framing is clearly to downplay it, to clearly dismiss well the ideologies involved with it, the reason why people are there, all the people responsible. That right there is deliberately to dismiss and downplay it. It's shit like that is how you know you're not dealing with somebody who's acting in good faith.
Yeah, yeah, man. A lot of people speaking of that Capitol riot thing. I mean, it was so funny that people talk about Trump derangement syndrome. Personally, I now while I'm no fan of big government, but I'm also no fan of Trump. And what I've seen more of like a Trump cult worshiping syndrome that was going on during his presidency, and he was the one that was calling for an armed insurrection in the Capitol. He was calling on nut jobs and all the tutu wearers to come out
Yeah,
of the woodwork and go bananas, and go in and just and cause mayhem. That there's stronger words I think that could be used for what that was.
insurrection. That's what that
Yeah,
was. That was an attack on the U.S. government, on the United States
yeah,
of America as a whole. That's what that was. Period. Like
yeah.
there's no other way to describe that. I mean, some people, if you want to get down to the nitty gritties, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean, on the specifics of the matter, were
Mm-hmm.
literally all of them intent on doing that? No, obviously not. Like there was a mixture of motivations there that just happened to coincide. Whereas the
Mm-hmm.
ones who wanted to disrupt the electoral college vote and those who went there to kill politicians, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They
Absolutely. And you know what? To all the anarchists watching here, I got to tell you one thing, man. There's a difference between like fighting for freedom or fighting for the will of the people and fighting for tyranny and fighting for dictatorship. And
yeah.
the Capitol insurrection was a pro dictatorship move. That was not a pro freedom move. You know what I'm saying? That was going in the wrong direction for all you freedom lovers out there. Just in case you're confused, okay?
Yeah, no, that was unequivocally pro dictatorship insurrection. That's
Yeah.
what that was.
Yeah,
You
like,
know what I
oh,
mean?
screw term limits, screw popular vote. Let's just
Yeah,
keep Orange Man in there forever. Yeah.
yeah, like because they would keep moving the goalposts as to what counted as a legitimate assessment of who won. Like even when the Supreme Court shot it down, like, oh fuck, well fuck the courts then. We're just gonna take over. How about that?
Yeah.
You know, like they would just keep moving it like, oh, the media doesn't get to decide, the state decide. Well, the state said this. All right, well the lower courts, will the courts decide. The lower court said no, it's good. And then all right, the Supreme Court decides. The Supreme Court said no, it's good. And then you
Yeah.
know you give them like, well, fuck all of it then. We decide. We're taking over. And you see what I'm saying? You
Uh-huh.
like they were never concerned with democracy in the slightest. It was that was a pro dictatorship insurrection. That is what that was. They were trying to overturn everyone for to keep their guy in power.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Related to that, did you hear that phone call when Trump called the governor of
Right.
Georgia or something? He's like,
Yeah, he
"Go
called the
find those
Secretary
votes.
of State. Yes.
I want you to pull those votes out your ass."
Oh, that was some mafia shit. He's basically like, make the votes appear. You make I need this many votes, make them appear, basically. You know what I mean? It's just like, are you kidding me?
That
Like, are
was some
you
Kremlin level corruption right there. Like,
are you?
it was
I am
wild.
so glad he revealed that he leaked that audio. And you know what I mean? That is some full on tin pot dictators bullshit. Like make the votes appear. I need this many votes, make them appear. Just
Yeah,
make.
yeah, yeah.
And he was blackmailing him too. He's like, make it happen or else.
Yeah, yeah.
it's bad gonna happen to you. You know, make
He
it
was
so.
totally, there was like a veiled threat in there, like,
Yeah.
I'll mess all your shit up if you don't find some magic
Yeah,
votes.
if you don't make 11,000 some votes appear, some bad things might happen to you. Just thought I'd let you know that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So that's
that's
why,
good.
and that's why it's like anybody who tries to downplay it, I immediately you are not somebody I'm taking seriously. Period. If you
Yeah.
try to downplay what that was, I don't want to fucking talk to you. Period.
I'll tell you what, the one thing's definitely for sure. When you mentioned sorting through the bullshit, when it comes to, talking with randos on the internet, there's a lot of separation of wheat from the chaff. You got to sift through a lot of crap to find the good ones. But
Yeah.
eventually, but if you try hard and you look for them and you keep your eyes open, you find some good cats on the internet that are really worth talking to. On either side, it doesn't matter what side of the ideological spectrum you're on. And honestly, I find more interest talking with people who disagree with me on topics than just having like a cheerleading circle jerk session with everyone I agree with all the time. I got a lot of ANCAP friends, but lately I've been having more fun getting to know people that are on the left, or people that are either progressives or libertarian left, or even Marxists, and finding out what makes them tick. You find out that there's a lot of things in common in terms of what you agree is wrong, and where we want to bring society towards, and it's the path to get there that there's a lot of differences that I think that where the differences really find their place. But it's funny, man. A lot of these trolls can be amusing though, because I've seen some of the tweets you've been tweeting, and some of the weirdos that you've been mocking on your Twitter channel, and it's hilarious some of these people's mindsets, man.
They're fucking nuts, bro. I'm just like I have a very thick skin, so when I see this stuff, like, it doesn't bother me, but it's just like, wow, really, really, like, y'all, like with my recent one about the Capitol insurrection truthers who did not take too kindly to my Antifa tweet. It's just like, the shit is just like, y'all expect me to trust or to give a fuck about your assessment of Antifa when y'all out here saying the Capitol insurrection was actually Antifa. Like you clearly can't even assess the objective reality in front of you. So why is and don't get me wrong, there's plenty of actual critiques of Antifa that I know of, and I do listen to, and I'm cool with that. But I'm like, I don't take any of y'all assessments seriously, because if y'all can't even acknowledge this, then y'all clearly are working on motivated reasoning. You want Antifa to be as bad as you think they are. So you're just gonna say that all these guys, all that attempt to install a dictator was all actually Antifa disguised as Trump supporters to make Trump look bad. I'm like, y'all clearly cannot assess anything correctly. So I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm not taking anything you have to say seriously.
Yeah, Antifa takes marching orders from Trump now, I guess.
From Trump, apparently. Apparently Antifa. And it's like, and that's another thing that always gets me, is the conflation with the Democrats with like Black Lives Matter and Antifa. And I'm just like, do y'all know how much the Black Lives Matter movement and Antifa hate the Democrats too? Have y'all ever talked to or seen any like this? They don't get, it's not in the, they think it's the same of how like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and all that, who had almost formed almost basically deemed themselves as like the militant faction for Trump. You know what I mean? Who were absolutely taking marching orders from Trump. They seem to think the same applies to the Democrats and like Biden with Antifa and Black Lives Matter. I'm like, no. Those groups get denounced by Democrats all the time. Like they don't. There's no prominent Democrat or any really that actively, openly said, gives orders to like Antifa or Black Lives Matter and say, hey, we're gonna be here, like Black Lives Matter, Antifa, stand up and stand by, or some shit like the way Trump was talking about the Proud Boys. You know what I mean? There's no equivalent. They're separate entities that just do their own fucking thing, and they're accountable to themselves effectively. You know what I mean? It's not one-to-one here.
Absolutely. And they like to oversimplify, so you got these Proud Boys and these Trump cultists. Everyone to the left of them is Antifa. There's no centrist. There's no nuance in their eyes. It's a very black and white thing to them. And I see a lot more shades of gray than they recognize.
Which I try to point out to people too, who may be even remotely sympathetic to those groups. I'm like, I don't know if y'all pay attention to how these groups talk about anyone to the left of them, but they really do we're all the same. If you're not with them, we're all Antifa. We're all Black Lives Matter. We're all Democrats. They don't make a fucking lick of a distinction between anybody. They don't care. Yeah. It's all the same. If you're not them, then you're against them. That's it.
Man, it's funny too. They're unaware. The Proud Boys and these Trump cultist types. They're unaware because they're the ones. A moment ago I said I like engaging with people that I disagree with, but those people are all in like their
An
echo
alternate
chamber.
universe. They're in an
Yeah,
alternate universe.
and it's like what you were saying on your Twitter. They're in an alternate universe. They're in a imaginary land that they make up this total bullshit narrative about what they think the world is when there's so
You
much
can't
different.
you
Yeah.
can't reach that. You can't engage with that. Like, how am I supposed to engage with a motherfucker who is saying, "Oh yeah, it was all Antifa disguised as Trump supporters. The FBI is in on it. The courts are in on it." Like, how do you even talk to someone like that? How? How can I possibly sit down and talk with somebody who's we're not even operating in the same fucking reality anymore?
Oh man, what's the phrase for like when there's someone brainwashed and then you gotta like deprogram them,
De-radicalize?
something like that, man. You know how like you watch the movies and someone gets brainwashed or hypnotized, and then you got to bring them back to reality, and you give them like psychotherapy or something, and you got to deconstruct because that's what anyway. But whatever
Yeah.
that word is, that's what these guys need. I swear to God.
Seriously, like they are really, they are eyeball deep in bullshit. Like, as one person, I even though it's obviously this expanded well past Fox News, but somewhere I forgot who coined the term, the Fox News cinematic universe. All right, the only way that's what you describe these guys. But even they turned on Fox News when even Fox News started accurately reporting on what the fuck was happening. They turned on Fox. Then that's what I'm saying. Like they turned on Fox News when even when Newsmax started accurately reporting because they started getting sued by Dominion and Smartmatic. They're like, okay,
right.
we were wrong. Like, there was no fraud. It was absolutely
Yeah.
like it was converted. Like, they turned on Newsmax. These people don't want the truth. They don't. They want to sink deeper and deeper into their delusions. They don't care what the truth is. And no,
Yeah.
these are not people you can just sit down and talk with about these things.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. So now that Trump is out of office, where are these people going to go? Are some of them going to start coming back to reality and chill out a little bit? Or
Disillusion.
do you think they're going to push another psycho alt-right candidate in 2024? I mean, I don't know, man. I'm hoping some of these people de-radicalize. Well, I mean, I want to see Antifa and the Proud Boys de-radicalize a little bit. You know what I mean?
What's gonna happen is what I'm seeing so far is a mix of things. There are those who've become completely disillusioned. They have just disengaged. They don't even know what to believe anymore. They don't care anymore. As like from the one testimony of one of the people who stormed the Capitol, who's now is you know potentially getting arrested and whatnot. In his
Was it the
testimony,
Buffalo guy or the dude that
no,
put
no,
his
no, no.
feet on Pelosi's desk?
No, not that guy. Somebody it's
Someone else.
completely
Okay.
like unremarkable, just some dude, just one of the many people who went there. In his testimony, he said, like, he basically, in his statements, like, I don't care about politics anymore. I just want to work and take care of my family. I don't care anymore. It's basically what he said, and that's what his lawyer is just like go easy on the guy. He has a clean record up to this point, and as a former service member, he believed he believed in a bunch of lies by like, this is the lawyer stating that the president lied to him and misled him and directed him to defend his country, and he acted on that. Like this man, he's not going to do it again. He was just, like I said, that was his mistake for being gullible and being lied to. But that seems to be a common trend. It's just a lot of those people who are now suffering consequences, like actual material consequences for it, are just like, look, I don't care anymore. They've disengaged. They want nothing to do with this shit.
Well,
Then
good.
you got the dead enders, the people who are like, they're triple, quadruple down, like the Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of how many threats are being sued, regardless of any consequences, they have double, triple down. They refuse to believe that they were wrong about any of this. And yeah, consequences are coming for them one way or the other. Because there's no, if you're going to keep defaming people, you're just going to get sued into oblivion. You know what I mean? So, ain't much for them. And there's no one good enough on the right to replace Trump. Ain't nobody got the juice. Ain't nobody got the charisma. Ain't nobody got the juice. Ain't no one got the type of personality that all these different factions could project themselves onto. No one can replace Trump, and without him, they've got nothing really. So it's
Yeah.
kind of the right is in a lot of ways fractured irreparably.
Yeah. It does seem right now that there's more in terms of the politicians, in DC. It seems that there's more charisma on the left, or at least on the centers and
Yeah,
the left. So like I would consider Biden more of a centrist, I guess.
yeah,
And he's charismatic. Obama was charismatic.
yeah,
And then you've got on the far left, like the AOC types who are also charismatic. Hey,
yeah.
I'm not a fan of AOC's policies, but she's great at her narrative. She's great at motivating people,
Yeah.
and she's not she's not
Even if you
she's not
don't agree with
stupid.
her,
She's
she's
not
not
crazy.
lying.
Yeah.
She's not
Yeah.
crazy. She's not
Exactly.
lying. You're like, even if you don't agree with her policy solutions, she's not lying. She's not making up a
Exactly.
bunch of bullshit. She's not
Yeah.
living stoking culture war nonsense.
No.
She is pushing solution what she
Yeah.
believes to be the right solution. She is
Exactly.
acting from good faith, from a position of good faith.
Exactly, and that's one of the things that I like to see, no matter where you lie on your politics, and that's part of that charisma. The squad has charisma. All of those cats in there right now. There's a lot of momentum, and one of the reasons I actually started my pro-capitalism channel is because I see all this momentum on the left. I see a lot of charisma on the left. I see a lot of young adults attaching themselves to the socialist label. And it's
Yeah,
kind of funny for me, man, because here's the thing is like, it's like as a big freedom lover, I feel a lot of identity and a lot of agreement with the left on certain issues like
yeah.
LGBT, like inclusivity, like
Civil liberties and whatnot.
multiculturalism, all the
Yeah,
cultural stuff, man.
yeah,
I dig it. I live in LA and I love it here with all the different people and all the different cultures and all these cool things. And I got a lot of love for that kind of thing. My big issue is like the economic thing. I want to see
yeah,
more. I want to see more economic freedom. I don't want to see all these. I don't want to see everything get buried in red tape and
yeah,
tariffs from sea to shining sea
yeah,
and protectionism and stuff. Now, Donald Trump was actually big on that protectionism shit. Economically,
yeah.
he did a lot of anti-freedom stuff. I was
Yeah.
never a fan of his policies.
He was
Biden would
very
be more.
economically isolationist.
Yeah, and like I'd like to, in some ways, Biden is more pro-capitalism than Trump is on an economic
On
scale.
the
You know what I
economics,
mean?
absolutely.
So yeah, man. I just want to see more. I want to see the left in America come to recognize that there's an important place for property rights and
Yeah,
for free trade and for
yeah,
profit and that kind of thing. Because if we go the way of if we go the way of that protectionism stuff, it
yeah,
doesn't matter if it's a Trumper doing it or an AOC doing it. You're
yeah,
going to have a lot of economic hardship, and it's going to be harder for people to pull themselves out of poverty overall in the long
yeah.
run. Is how I feel.
No, I agree. I agree, and I think there is, at least from my perspectives, from what I can tell, a lot
Mhm.
of that because to get to that point would have to. Uh, I mean, it kind of works on the assumption that we ever did have some kind of free trade when we never really did. I don't know really what points that out better than what happened with the whole GameStop theme. How the second people started doing the same thing that Wall Street had always been doing, they started putting their thumb on the scale, like, whoa, 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 you actually can't sell these stocks. You actually can't buy
Yeah,
these things because it was never really a free market to begin with.
that's right.
There never really truly has
Well,
been.
it was free market for the connected players, or they
Exactly.
wrote the rules to favor themselves, and when the little guy tried to get in on it, they were like,
They're
"Oh,
like,
shut it
nope, nope,
down."
nope, nope. You can't play. You can't play the same game we've been playing. Sorry. You know what I mean? We pick the
Yeah,
winners and lose. And then in the truth, that's how it's always been. And like that's how it's always been. We'd like to get to a point where that's not the case. At least that's my understanding with largely the more prominent, more mainstream left is advocating for an actual free market where motherfuckers aren't being able to do shit like that. Because
yeah,
that's
yeah,
always been the case. Being able to do that, that has genuinely, for not just within America, but our global markets, that's always been the case. We
yeah,
never truly had a free market.
yeah.
We'd like to get to that point.
I'd like to get us as close as we can. I mean, there's there's a sliding scale. The free markets aren't necessarily just an on or off switch. It's a
Yeah,
gradient, and the more free the markets get, the less protectionism that we have in the
yeah,
way that things are bought and sold, and that whether it's a company or whether it's a bottle of shampoo, the more free market policy that we have going on, I think the better off everyone will be. And
yeah,
capitalism or capitalists rather have kind of shot themselves in the foot in this regard. Imagine, you're an average Joe and you see these big rich bankers who proclaim to be capitalists do all these protectionism kind of things where they get to do the free market shit and you don't.
You don't.
Of course, as an average Joe, it's easy to go, oh man, capitalism fucking sucks, And now I'm over here sitting to go, no, those bankers are tricking you, man. They're screwing up the free markets.
The biggest advocates for capitalism, unfortunately, do the capitalism a disservice by being complete hypocritical sacks of shit. You know what I mean? It's just like you're not doing yourself a favor selling me on capitalism when what you're doing is very clearly not free market. It's you don't actually want to compete with it because that's the thing about that is when I look at your motivation on things, you have the kind of mindset that someone who wants to compete would have, like say boxing. You know what I mean? When I step in the ring of boxing, I don't have to think about. I'm not worried about someone tipping the scale in the favor of the fighter and whatnot. I want to compete because what the hell else am I training for? If not to compete against somebody who could possibly beat me. I want to fight. I want to be able to prove that I'm the better fighter. But these guys with their mindset, they don't actually want to compete. They don't want to compete. They don't want competition. So they form duopolies, which basically just regional monopolies. They put their thumb on the scale. They make it so no one can compete with them. They don't actually want to compete, and because of that, they provide shitty service. They're able to effectively provide the shittiest fucking service imaginable. You know what I mean? It's just as an example, internet service provider, like Comcast and all that jazz. It's deliberate. They don't want to provide you the best service. They don't want to have to. They don't want the competition would make them have to. They don't.
That's
want any of that.
Competition makes you have to work for your meal.
Have to work for it.
It makes you have to sleep in the bed you made. It's like the Wall Street bailouts, like Occupy Wall Street, man, and I totally felt Brenton Langle on this one, man, because he was a big part of the Occupy Wall Street movement. He was up in there protesting. And you know what, man? I agreed with them on that, but it's like no to banker bailouts. Don't rescue people don't rescue rich people from their own mistakes. Yeah. They can afford to take a loss. I want to see if your bank fails, I want to see it fail. I don't want to see you get bailed out. Make room for someone else to give it a shot.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's, but of course, people, rightly or wrongly, people said, oh, banker bailouts, that's just capitalism run amok. In my opinion, that was protectionism from the ruthlessness of a competitive free market.
Of an actual competitive free market. Like, if I'm in boxing and I lose, you don't get to like, hey, no, he won. You make it so he won. Like, no,
the ref stops and gives you some free points. Like, no, the ref's gotta call you out.
No, I lost. I was the worst. I lost. Let me lose. Don't fucking just start giving give him a bunch of points so he won. Like, no, I lost.
Time for a new fight. You lost. Time for a new fighter to come in and give it a shot. I like that analogy a lot, man. That's a good one. And it speaks to the competitive aspect, and there are supposed to be winners and losers in a free market. Some people fear, sometimes people have rhetoric like, oh, the free market picks winners and losers and those losers are shit out of luck. And I'm like, what? You don't want bad banks to lose? Come on, man. Like,
yes, I do. I want bad banks to lose. Yeah. I want bad businesses to lose.
Yeah, in a free market, the good banks would survive, and the bad banks that made the shitty bets and bet against the people and bet to hurt the average Joe, they're the ones that are supposed to lose and not get bailed out. So it's that creative destruction aspect, but it's kind of a subtle nuanced take right there, I think, and a lot of people just see it more on the plain old, big banks are bad and big banks are always capitalist, therefore capitalism is bad.
I have had to spell because I'm like a lot of motherfuckers gonna let me surprised when I tell them I'm not anti-capitalist. I'm like, I'm not. I'm like, this may come as a shock to you. I'm not. I may be highly critical of it, but I'm not. And my criticisms are more of the foundational issues that got us to where we are. And that's people being effectively rewarded for their bad behavior. You know what I mean? Because if you're bailing them out from their shitty business decisions that resulted in them needing a bailout in the first place, you're rewarding that bad behavior. Yeah. You know what I mean? When the pandemic hit and all these companies like fucking airlines and cruise lines and all that needing bailout from the government, it's just like
multiple bailouts.
Multiple.
Yeah. And like if you don't like 2 or 3?
Yeah, it's like two things here. It's like if you don't bail us out, we'll lay off all these people. They got bailed out and then still laid off all the people. So that's one thing. But another thing is just like you're a multi-billion-dollar company. How are you not prepared for potential anything? How do you not
Yeah.
have the money to weather any kind of something like this happening? Because that's a big argument. Is you're supposed to be
Yeah.
responsible with your money, and if you fail, it's because you just weren't responsible enough. But that seems to only apply to everyone else. They can be as irresponsible as possible, and
Yeah.
then not be ready for any kind of bad day, and then get a bailout for not having been responsible enough to be ready to weather any kind of thing outside of their control. Because obviously they can't control a fucking pandemic. But
Sure.
like you would think a multi-billion-dollar business would have more than enough money to weather the kind of a storm of something just again out of their control happening.
Or they at least have assets that they can leverage that to protect the paychecks of their employees or something
Yeah,
like
but
that.
they
You know,
did.
they
But
have a
they
lot of
did.
capital, they have a lot of assets, they have a lot of infrastructure that they can that they can leverage. And but instead, what the thing is that because the thing is that those big shot CEOs, they're on a first name basis with a lot of the politicians, and they go, look, don't worry about it. Senator so and so will pass a bill and save our asses from ourselves.
Yeah, so we don't have to be responsible. We don't have
Yeah,
to.
yeah. It's infuriating to see that kind of thing happen with the big businesses, with these mega corporations. I'm way more sympathetic to government assistance for a small business, even though
Yeah,
like I'm not a fan of government in general, but if you're going to have a government, one of the better things it could do is help the little guy
yeah.
as opposed to helping the big guy. Now, to be fair, Washington did give some assistance to small businesses. I'm not saying they didn't act on it, but what I wanted to see less of was all the big corporate
It was just
bailouts.
getting blank. They were just getting blank
Yeah.
checks left and right. And even then, with the small business part, the PPP loans and all that, that didn't even go to most small businesses.
That's right. It
Yeah,
didn't go far enough. There was too little given to the small businesses, and there
yeah.
was too much given. It was top heavy. It was
It,
lopsided, right?
it was basically if you were a big business, you were just getting a blank check. It was a quick, easy process to get a bailout. But if you were a small business trying to get a PPP loan, the process was abysmal. It was
Yeah,
just it was a bit. It was so much bullshit you had to go through, and you wouldn't even guarantee to get approved. You know
that's
what I
right. There
mean?
was cutoffs. There was like
Yeah.
there was limits as to like how many could apply. A lot of people didn't get the lottery or whatever.
And that's what they do. That's what this is the type of shit that they do. Is just like then there's the foundational understanding in Washington. It seems to be where again, like if you are a big business, you are a mega corporation, whatever the case may be, the process to getting government assistance is basically non-existent. There's no bureaucratic
You make a
nightmare
phone call.
bureaucratic. Just a phone call. Hey, I need a $500 million, please. Oh, right away, sir. Right away.
Yeah.
But if you're a small business, hey, look, I need $100,000 so I can keep people on the payroll. Okay, here's 100 pages of paperwork you need to fill out. I need 10 forms of identification. I need identification. You know what I mean? They add a bunch of it becomes a bureaucratic nightmare.
Dude, you're absolutely right. And let me tell you real quick an anecdotal story that totally illustrates what you just described.
Yeah.
There's a mom and pop restaurant near my job that I like to go to. It's not a chain, it's not a franchise, it's just a one-off, right? And they've got maybe like 10 employees. And when the pandemic started, they had to switch to like the takeout only thing, so you can't dine in, but you can go take out. So I'm going there to take out some food. And the owner, she's a really nice lady, and she was sitting there like on the phone, and she was expressing frustration to me as she handed me my food. She was like, "Man," she's like, "it's so tough keeping this place open right now. We're trying to get a PPP loan, and I'm stuck on hold, and like the person on the other line doesn't know anything, and I don't know how to complete the application, and I'm trying to do this and that." And it was really frustrating for her because she had to sit there on hold all day when she's supposed to be running a restaurant, and she's stuck on the phone, and it was I don't even know if she ended up getting the PP loan or not. She was struggling to get access to those resources that for the big shots is so super easy and convenient to do. And it's hilarious. I was like, man, that is so lopsided how difficult it is for a regular person like her to get those resources,
And that's by design because of some foundational dogma that just seems to just exist, that just unquestioningly exists in Washington. That is the moderate position. You know what I mean? It's like, for example, the mindset of if the government gives people money, people aren't gonna want to go back to work. And I'm just like, can y'all back that up with like any evidence, please? It's like that just seems to be accepted dogma. But it's
Yeah.
not the case at all. Like they were just supposed to give people a $1,400 check because if we give them this money, people aren't going to want to go back to work. And I'm like, do you know how much $1,400, how far that gets you? Just one. You think people are just going to quit their jobs for a $1,400 check? Do you like? I like I'll use myself as an example. I receive a basically universal basic income because of my VA disability rating. I get $1,800 a month. I still work full time. You want to know why? You want to know why I do that? Because I like having money and I like buying things. I like being able to travel. I like being able to do stuff. Yeah, $1,800, that covers the rent and utilities and all that good shit. You know, all the necessities to keep me alive. But my work paycheck, I get to go do things. I can go buy stuff. I can participate in the market, put money into small businesses, back into the market. My needs are being like I didn't, and like someone try to argue, oh, it's because you're the military, you got that discipline. No, things cost money. I want things, and most people do. If everyone got by some kind of universal basic income, they wouldn't just quit working. They just, well, now I don't have to worry about my bills anymore. Now I can just go buy all the video games I want, or I can go out to eat all the time.
Yeah. You know what? You touched on an interesting topic because I recently came around on this concept and I ended up accepting that I was wrong. For a long time I thought, oh man, if you just give people free money, welfare or whatever, they're not going to want to work. They're going to be lazy and just sit at home all day and not contribute to society. And I found out just late last year. I was reading a couple of papers or studies that someone linked on Twitter, and they were very persuasively, these studies very persuasively argued that people getting more money doesn't make them lazy. It doesn't make them want to not contribute. It doesn't make them want to not work. Okay. But as a general rule. And it actually made me come around to the concept that people are going to be motivated whether or not they're getting help, whether or not they're getting charity, whether or not people are giving them a helping hand.
Because people want things.
Yeah. And by contrast, there's always some lazy people in society that are going to be lazy no matter how rich or how poor they are. Absolutely. And they're few and far between. But dude, I know a lot of rich people and I know a lot of poor people, and I know lazy people in either position, and but the vast majority of people I know, whether rich or poor, are very motivated on a day-to-day basis to work hard. The vast majority. And that's not going to change whether or not someone is helping you with your bills.
So, without a doubt.
Yeah. So you're right. And I was recently proven wrong on this. I actually looked into the issue and my eyes were kind of open. Now, it doesn't mean I'm necessarily a fan of big government spending, but it is absolutely true that the welfare queen myth is a total myth.
It's bullshit. It's always been bullshit. And it's just like, in the way I see it, you got two options then. You do one of two things. If you're opposed to the government spending a lot of money on that matter of meeting meeting people's needs, and I'm like, well, then people's wages got to go up. It's one or the other. Something has to give. Either pay people enough where one job is more, like, to make that the standard, where one job is more than enough for people to live off of, or the universal basic income. It's something has to give. You know what I mean? Because as it stands, people are spending. People aren't able to buy. Our dollar has less spending power because people have less money to buy things. Like, the cost of things continue to rise, whereas people's income hasn't really. So you know what I mean? Compare at least in tandem with inflation over time. So it's like something has to give. Yeah. People need more money to spend to put back into the economy. So either universal basic income or raise people's wages, but it can't be neither. You know what I mean? You can't just say don't raise anything at all. And that's just right. As inflation continues, because the rent still is going up. Like, my rent has been going up each year. You know what I mean? Rent still goes up. You know what I mean? The cost of everything is still going up. Man. And so something has to give. Yeah. Yeah, I would prefer the non-government one, like you said, the wages, rather than just giving out universal income. Just fucking raise people's wages. Then it's the private sector regulating itself and whatnot. But they don't want to raise people's wages. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
something's got to give.
Yeah, it's a lot of pro-capitalism, small government types will say they'll say, oh, if we reduce government benefits, then the private sector will step in. That's certainly possible, but it's not necessarily a given. Some private entities would step in or step up to the plate, as it were, and raise wages, but not all of them would. But what I would like to think is that the ones that don't step up to the plate would be the ones that would quickly find themselves with a shortage of willing workers who are willing to put up with that shit and work for that crap wage when the other company down the block is paying better wages, and the customers will be more attracted to the providers that are treating employees correctly. So consumer choice has a big way to go
in theory, but that belies the issue of the illusion of choice. You know what I mean? Because why is like think about like as to why people work these low wage jobs to begin with, because that's usually the argument. People someone say, well, if your pay is too low, then go find a better job. And it's just like the bills still got to be like, you know how long it takes to get a new job? You know how long it takes to to get on the payroll? You're giving it's a matter of transportation. What if the only other jobs are you need a car to get to you? Because where I live, if you ain't got a car, you ain't getting nowhere. All right, you are fucked without a car. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like
cars are not cheap. Even a used car. And gas ain't cheap. Insurance ain't cheap.
Car insurance isn't cheap. You know what I mean? It's in theory, if all things being equal, all your needs are met. Now yada yada. Like every factor is accounted for and met, so the transition to the other job is comfortable. Like you can wait for however long it takes, because one job took 3 months to fucking call me back. You know what I mean?
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if people's needs are met in that transition period, then they can be like, fuck you. I'll wait until your pay is shit and you don't want to raise people's wage. So I'm gonna fucking wait until they get to this place, hires me and whatnot, however long that takes. But because people don't have the luxury to wait at all, they don't have that luxury. They have to stay at the shitty fucking low paying job. You know what I mean? The reason I was able to wait to be unemployed until I got this amazing job that I got right now is because of the $1,800 a month I get from the government. My bills were paid. I was able to make sure food was on the table. I could comfortably wait.
You were able to tread water and survive while you continued your search.
Yes, while I continued searching for a new job. I didn't need to go take whatever immediate job off or whatever shitty job was available to me, because my needs were met, so I wasn't desperate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And when people don't, people in that position, if they don't have assistance, if they don't have, help in some form or another, that's when you're going to fall through the cracks. And that's when it's going to, and the more you're falling down those cracks, the harder it is for you to get that job that you're looking for you to pull yourself out. So whether it's a private or a public entity, there's got to be something there, or there should be something there to help people, to keep people afloat, to keep people treading water so that they don't drown while they're trying to get out of the proverbial water there, you know?
And that's what I'm saying, is that a lot of people don't consider, a lot of more pro-capitalist people don't consider that. You know what I mean? Their arguments against, and their arguments against like welfare or unemployment or whatever the case may be, is because they'll just say, well, if you and against raising wages, you know what I mean? They don't think about that. It's like people are desperate. Bills still got to get paid. The motherfucking landlord don't give a fuck about your transition period. They want their rent on the first. You know what I mean?
That's right.
You need, you know what I mean, the electricity, the water, or the heat and the internet, whatever the case may be. The bills still got to get paid in that transition period. They don't care what you're going through. If you don't pay up, you ain't getting goodbye water, goodbye electricity, goodbye house. You are now homeless. You know what I mean? And so obviously people don't want to be fucking homeless, cold, and starving. So they will take whatever they can get or stay at the shitty, low-paying jobs they're at. So it's the illusion of choice. It's the illusion of freedom. You're not actually free. You are, as some people have labeled it, a wage slave. You are stuck. You are effectively stuck. You don't actually have a choice. It looks like you have a choice, but you actually don't.
Yeah, your your choice is comply or starve, huh?
You
I
comply
guess.
or starve. You know what I mean? I mean, you don't have to work for me, but your
Yeah.
alternative is starvation. So it's up to you, dude. It's up to you. It seems like a pretty easy choice to me. You know.
Yeah, yeah, man. Geez, comply or starve. I've. It's not the first time I've heard that criticism. Especially what people love to throw it at capitalism.
Again, I'm
Um,
not opposed to. I want to be clear
yeah,
about that. I'm not opposed to capitalism, though.
sure.
It's just you do have to acknowledge that capitalism, by at least by and large, our capitalist system, the many proponents of it, they
The
just
real life
pretend
one that we're experiencing today,
today.
not the ideological
Not the
one that's on a piece of
ideal one.
paper.
The
Yeah.
real one we're living with does not factor that in at all. They do not
Mm-hmm.
give a shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
And private charity is increasingly important the more privatized your economy and your society becomes, because one of the things that a lot of capitalists will talk about is like self-responsibility, and a lot of times they'll be
oh,
assholes and they'll wield it like a hammer at people. Self-responsibility. But the reality is they don't see the other side. Self-responsibility, if you're going to sit there and say, okay, we got to move away, we got to wean ourselves from the government tit. Self-responsibility is not about the little guy just bucking up and pulling himself up by his bootstraps. Self-responsibility is about those who are in a more comfortable position lending a helping hand out of their own free will rather than having the government force them to do it. If you don't want to sit there and have a government tell you what to do, then you've got to make those more self-responsible choices, like the teenager going,
bingo.
mommy, I want to take the car out tonight. I'm not gonna let you take the car out until you prove that you can be responsible. Then I'll let you act more like an adult. I'll give you more access to adult shit, right? Do you
Bingo.
see what I'm saying here?
Yes.
That's
And
how I interpret self-responsibility. It's a
me
two-way
too.
street,
It's
man.
a two-way street. It's
And
like it's
most
that's what
capitalists don't realize.
they don't. It's like because they want to have it. But a lot of them, I got two parts to this. One, a lot of them want to have it both ways, where they don't want to actually have to pay in to
Mm,
basically make the kind of investments that would justify the system that they're defending. You know what I mean? Like paying into the charities that would then fill the role of what government would do. They don't want to
yeah,
actually have to pay into that. They don't want to have to pay into the roads. They don't want to have to pay into any of the numerous factors that would effectively defend the system they want to defend. You know what I mean? They want to have it both ways. They want to have their cake and eat it too. And then the second
yeah,
thing with that, if it, which it goes in tandem with the first, if they actually did, you know what I mean, the build the wall GoFundMe would have worked. You know what I mean? As an example, I'm not
that
even
stupid
acknowledging the
wall.
fact that I'm not even acknowledging the fact that it was a blatant fucking scam and that, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
that it's been clearly revealed to have just been a scam. The point was that those people wanted this thing and they raised $25 billion for it, and that wasn't even a fraction of the cost necessary to build and even maintain the wall that they wanted. You
yeah.
know, your
Such a joke.
charity can only go so far. Some things require a kind of collective, even the mandatory collective investment into it to meet the scale of the thing you're doing. If it was small scale in a local area, then yeah, maybe. But for something, it comes down to scale with regards to investment. As to where investment or when government is necessary and required and whatnot. That's when it comes
Yeah,
down to between what charity can handle and what government needs to handle. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because the private charities or private sector is at least time again, just based off what we actually have, not in theory, but based off what we actually have and the incentive structures in place. Private sector cannot handle a public crisis. They have chosen not to be more specific. If I want to be there, it's not that they
they have
literally could.
chosen.
They've
Yeah, yeah,
chosen not to. They could if they really wanted to, but all incentives do that they, as far as they're concerned, they have no reason to. They
yeah.
don't.
It's in terms of scale, and what you talk about is scale is important. And I will say this: it is easier for a federal government to get a $1,400 check in the hands of every adult than it is for a private charity to do it on that scale for 330 million people.
Yeah.
With 330 million people, if you wanted to do that with a private charity format, you'd probably have to have, 330,000 different private charities, each giving money to 1,000 people, or it would be something like that. It would be a little more, it would be more decentralized, and it would be a little more uneven. You know what I mean? With the government, there's more uniformity in the way, and more, completeness, and it all happens at once. So there's definitely a difference there. I can see how when you have a national scale pandemic, the government has that advantage logistically speaking. You know what I mean?
Speaking, yeah. Because when things are privatized, there's a lot of what's the way I would say? There's a lot of middle because things are too decentralized. There's a lot of middlemen. And you end up spending more and taking more time to try to meet and thus resulting you not being able to meet the scale and the timeline needed to do the thing that needs to be done, like the mass production of a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a good prime example of that is like between like you said, like the military is a prime example of the reason why things need to be centralized on certain aspects. Because if the military, for example, how it functions was privatized from the service members needed to pay for their own education and job training, pay for their own healthcare, pay for their own food. If it was completely decentralized on the inside, but still expected to be a cohesive military and respond in the same way, it just wouldn't fucking work.
Yeah, that would negatively affect the performance of the soldiers, wouldn't it? Right?
Yeah.
And their readiness, their capability, because and their discipline, right?
Yeah, because it's too decentralized. That's the problem with the private sector. Like I said, it comes down to scale, but that's the broader issue we usually focus on is a matter of and again, it depends on scale. When something needs to be centralized and when something needs to be can be functionally decentralized. Can we meet the same readiness and functionality and effectiveness in a decentralized system versus a centralized system? You know what I mean? And in the case of like a national or global pandemic, being decentralized is not a good idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a national scale issue, a decentralized system just cannot work because it can't meet the scale of the issue.
You know what? Speaking of that, man, I'll tell you one thing. I had kind of a moral dilemma last year when the pandemic started. I opposed the economic shutdown, from an ideological standpoint. And I don't like the idea of a mask mandate with some sort of like fine or threat. Yeah. But I'm not an anti-masker. I am pro-mask. I am pro-safety. I spent a lot of time in the medical in the medical insurance industry back in the day, and I have an appreciation for medicine, and I respect the concept of a pandemic, and I respect the idea of having a safety-minded response, because you don't want all your grandparents to go dying from a stupid virus that you could have easily prevented. So I was wearing my mask, and I'm sitting there saying, well, geez, man, when I saw someone outside not wearing a mask, it pissed me off. And then I remembered, I'm kind of against a mask mandate, but I am getting pissed off when someone doesn't wear a mask, and I want to shame them.
Yeah. So now you got contradictory mind.
I had a contradiction, man. And I was like, man, I still haven't found a solution to that besides like maybe persuasion and just shunning. And it's like, look, I like the private property argument of, hey, if you're not wearing a mask, you are not allowed to come into my shop. Yeah. It's my shop. I make the rules. Yeah. But in a way, I mean, that's just a mandate, but on a private scale instead of a government scale. So it's like there's still a mandate going on if you say you can't come into my shop without a mask on. Yep. And I support that. So, man, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. The pandemic thing, having to have a big response, it kind of makes a capitalist like me have to think a lot about my principles and how where's the contradiction and how do they fit within an appropriate response. You know what I mean?
And that's what I'm glad to tell you on that, is that you can have it both ways on that. Like I said before, there is a time and place for the more privatized, decentralized matter of the more free, free enterprise, and I should be able to just do this thing or whatever. You know what I mean? I should be able to say, no, I don't want to serve you, or no, you can't come here without a mask on, whatever the case may be. There's a time and place for things like that. But in the case of something like this, of like a public crisis where it requires everyone to participate and do this thing. Like we can't solve this problem unless we all do the thing. Wear the mask. We all do it. And you know what I mean? That's one of those cases where, hey, this is where I'm like, yeah, this is there's no other way to solve this problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It requires public participation by, if not 100% of people, at least the majority. And if that requires, it to be mandated either by private sector, private enterprises, or the government itself, then that's what needs to happen, because we can't get out of this until this problem is solved. It's not gonna stop. Like, it's, as I said, like the virus don't give a fuck about the deficit or the debt or your free enterprise principles or any of that shit. It's not gonna go away until we do the thing that needs to get done. So that's one of those cases that's like, you're not betraying your principles. You're just you're understanding that some things are only work in theory, because here in practice, here and now, this is one of the things that needs to happen. You're not less of a capitalist for believing that, for understanding, for having the sense to understand that understanding the gravity of the situation, the scale of the situation, and what's required to solve this problem, and and understand that my personal beliefs on how things should be would not be able to meet the scale of this issue.
Yeah, man, and I'm glad we're talking about this too, and I appreciate that perspective, because you do have a lot of pragmatism, and it's like what's the phrase, like, you're worldwise, it's a no nonsense practical look. You're not trying to ideologically condemn either side or whatever. You're just saying that what needs to happen and how this is going to work. And this is the reality of the pandemic. The pandemic doesn't give a crap if you like capitalism or communism.
Yep, doesn't give a fuck about you.
It doesn't care who you voted for.
Nope. Like, it don't care. The virus don't care. That's all I'm like. You do what you gotta do. Like, if this is what's required of us, let's fucking do it so we can get back to the way things used to be, or something close to it.
Yeah. And so for all the capitalists watching, I want to say something about this, about what Rico just said, and the concept of the personal responsibility. Okay. If you don't want a government mandating masks and threatening you with $1,000 tickets and sending police to your door to make sure you're quarantined for 10 days, then what has to happen is the personal responsibility factor has to step up to the plate, because there's a vacuum there in terms of the appropriate behavior and the appropriate response. And if you want to think about how could a private economy deal with something like that, there has to be an equally severe amount of pressure on people to do the medically safe things. So if there's no government handing out tickets, then what you need people banning anti-maskers from their properties. You need insurance companies saying, if you don't wear a mask and follow these safety protocols, we're going to drop you from insurance. You're not going to have coverage anymore because we can't expose our customers to the risk that you're putting on people. All these and all these anti-maskers that say that they're the Gadsden flag wavers and these Alex Jones conspiracy theorists, they do such a disservice to the freedom loving side, because it's like, look, you can't just say, oh, I'm free from responsibility. That's not how that works, man. No. You're going to endanger lives. And then all of a sudden you're justifying a big, heavy-handed government response because of your total fucking stupidity.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, let me tell you, like I say, because the military is obviously the opposite of freedom. But here's the thing about it. In the military, though, is by and large, you are free to do whatever you want. Most people no one's going to be micromanaging every little thing you do. Most people, like, after working hours, you're free to do whatever. We have certain requirements that need to be met, like cleaning our rooms and yada, yada, yada. But, certain conduct that we need to adhere to. But other than that, you are free until you fuck up. If you, it's like everything is fine until someone fucks it up for everybody else. Until you make them have to enforce the rules. Because by and large, there are rules, but everybody's pretty fucking lax about everything until someone takes it too far, does something really fucking stupid, and then next thing you know, now they have to, like, really enforce the rules. Yeah. Now they have to next thing you know, we're getting micromanaged. Like, as a prime example was Okinawa. When I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, it was by and large pretty free to go around and travel, and it was fun, and I loved it. But somebody done fucked up and hurt a local. And then
Oh,
so next thing you know, we're on lockdown. You can't leave the base. You need to sign out from the barracks to even leave the barracks. You have to sign out.
ha,
You have to get a card and sign out from the
ouch.
barracks just to go to work and back, to go to the store and back. Because somebody fucked up so royally that now they're like, okay, it's time to put the hammer down. In other words, the hammer doesn't come down is so long as everybody fucking does your personal responsibility does what they need to do to prevent that. You don't fuck up and attack locals or some shit. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
do what needs to be done on your own without any. If you can prove that, then you won't have to worry about government coming down, jumping down your throat. But when you got anti-maskers out here, proudly proclaiming they don't give a fuck what anyone says, and or how their actions affect anybody else, well, then the government is going to come down and be like, well, I guess you're not really giving us a choice here.
Yeah, yeah. Jesus, man. And talk about a failure of personal responsibility. I got to imagine now. I've got a few friends in the military, but my experience with military service members is limited to the American military. But I think it's probably safe to assume that the American military gives more freedom to its service members than most militaries do,
Yes,
right?
yes, it does.
Probably the American service member is a bit more free than the Russian service member or the Chinese
we
service member,
we have
right?
so much freedom, it's insane. And again, and I'm a sergeant. I've been in charge. I know what it's like, and I can
Mm,
tell you, most of us we do not give a fuck what you do. All right, we always say this at the end of the workday, like you're all adults, especially before a weekend, like you're all adults. You know what I mean? Be responsible. Use common sense. If you're gonna have sex, wrap it before you tap it. You know what I mean? We really advocate and push personal responsibility. Have some common fucking sense. We don't want to have to get called back in. We don't want to have to micromanage you. We don't
yeah.
want to have to do all this shit. But if you fuck up, we're gonna have to. So don't fuck up.
Man, freedom is a real fragile thing, it seems, right? Like, and I mean personal freedom, right? I'm not talking about like economic or whatever. I just mean people's freedom to make their own choices. It can totally be a false choice situation, like you were talking about earlier. And if you don't make if you don't make responsible choices for your own life, you're gonna find yourself in a situation where someone's gonna like jump in and be an adult on your behalf
On your
because you
behalf.
ain't being an adult,
You
right?
ain't, you're making us do it. Like, because again, it's the scale of the pandemic. If everybody's not doing what needs to be done, then the problem isn't gonna go away, and we're all fucked as a result. So guess what's gonna happen? We're going to make you do what needs to be done until the problem is solved. We're gonna treat you like fucking children and punish you and micromanage you until the problem is solved, or until you've proven that we don't have to do that to get you to
Yeah.
do the thing that needs to be done.
Yeah, man, maybe that's really what it is. I think about this whole like stateless society thing a lot, and I think about like what it's going to take for a society to get there, theoretically speaking.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I sit there and I think, man, sometimes I think, Rico, I think, man, this government is just a boot on our neck. And then sometimes, depending on, whatever hot topic is on the news headlines in the day, sometimes I sit there and think, man, we have the government we deserve. We don't deserve anarchy yet because there's too many numbskulls in this motherfucker, right?
Genuine
There's too many
numbskull.
idiots ruining it for us. And when we as a society wake up enough and have enough personal responsibility, that only then will we have the degree of freedom that we deserve, that we've earned,
That
right?
we've earned.
Shit.
These freedom lovers, their idea of freedom is they think their actions they have no. It's like it's you have personal responsibility, but your actions are a factor in everybody else. Like, you do
Yeah.
have to consider that you are a part of a society. So
Yeah.
it's not just your own. It's not just doing whatever you want. You do have to consider everyone else.
That's right. You have
You
to
know
be
what I
aware
mean?
of the externalities that you produce, the
Yeah.
negative externalities that are going to affect someone else. You can't just pour used motor oil in your backyard and have it leach into your neighbor's yard. You can't just
Yeah.
say, "Oh, fuck it, man, freedom. I'm going to do whatever I want." That.
It's why we have like laws against drunk driving, things like that. Is because, like, yeah, if you want to get drunk in your own home, by all means. But the second while drunk, you step in your car and start driving, you're a threat to literally everyone else now. You are responsible not just for yourself, but everyone else. I don't. I like.
Yep.
It's not like, even if there wasn't laws against it, I wouldn't get drunk and then start driving because I know I would probably get myself killed or kill someone.
Yeah.
I have the sense to know I'm now a threat to everybody. Like I am no longer in the state of. That's why we have the warning labels on your medicines. Like, hey, do not mix with alcohol or whatnot, or do not take this while operating a heavy machinery, because now you are no longer in a state where you can really control your own actions, and more so that make you are now a danger to everyone else, not just yourself. Because if you were just a danger to yourself, that'd be one thing, but you are now a danger to everyone else.
Yep. You made a huge externality. You know, whether it's a private company spilling oil into the ocean, or whether it's some dumbass getting shit faced and then go driving the wrong way down a highway and smashing into someone's minivan.
That's what
You've got these actors, these entities that are behaving irresponsibly, and they undermine the cause of freedom because they're proving that they can't be left to their own devices, that they can't exercise the personal responsibility internally. And it's so frustrating to see that happen, because I want to see people grow the hell up and start acting responsible.
Yeah. You know? Or how about, and here's another one on that matter. And this was while I was stationed in Quantico, Virginia. I was the substance abuse control officer. You know, so basically we ran the urinalysis.
Oh wow.
You know what I mean? You have to get fucking everyone has to take a piss test. If you're on that test, you have to show up, right? And this is another thing with regards to why accountability is sometimes necessary, because here's how it was when I got there. For the first 6 months, the current commanding officer didn't give a fuck about the urinalysis program. He just didn't. So even though, because I can't hold people accountable for not showing up, all I can do is send their names to the commanding officer. It's his job to punish them for not showing up. They are supposed to. You can literally get in a lot of fucking trouble for that, like actual administrative trouble for that shit, for not showing up. It is Marine Corps order. You're supposed to be there. Yeah. But that law is worthless if the person whose authority it is to enforce it chooses not to. And so what would happen is most of the time no one would show up. At least we'd never get a full showing. We get maybe 25% of people to show up. Maybe.
Oh my God, that's all.
Oh yeah, for the most part, for the first 6 months, I was just chilling, honestly, because it was no one ever got any phone calls. No one ever really showed up. No one did what they were supposed to do. I did my job. I sent hey, commanding officer so and so. Here's a list of all the people who didn't show up, and nothing would happen to them. So no one gave a shit. Only the people who they're gonna follow the rules regardless of whether or not it's enforced, or they just they think they'll be held accountable if they don't show up. They don't know that the current CEO doesn't give a shit. So those two type of people, the people who think they're going to be held accountable, and the people who just will do the right thing regardless of whether or not accountable. The people who actually have a sense of personal responsibility. That CEO got relieved from duty for whatever reasons, and a new one comes on. This motherfucker does care. Oh, he does care. And next thing you know, I'm getting phone calls every day. We're getting 100% accountability. Am I on your analysis? Is your analysis today? Am I on your analysis? Next thing you know, everybody's showing up. People who now suddenly people give a shit. I wonder why. You know what I mean? And so it's at a certain point, like I said, if people just showed up on their own without the need for somebody to put a boot in their ass, we wouldn't need all these goddamn rules. But we wouldn't need daddy government to fucking mandate people do a thing or so. But here in practice, and as things actually are, we do need it, because an unfortunate, a not so insignificant amount of people just won't give a shit. They will not do the thing they need to do. They will not give a shit unless you make them give a shit.
Wow. Man, what a story. Jesus. Talk about personal responsibility is a double-edged sword, it seems like, is what's going on here.
Double-edged sword.
Man, hey, so I hate to do it, but I gotta wrap up the video now, because real life calls, and I gotta go put the baby to nap. But man, this it's already been almost an hour and 15 minutes. It's flown by. You're a great conversationalist. No wonder you like talking to people, because you're really good at it. I get the feeling that you're the type of person that could find good faith, enjoyable, not conversation with just about anybody, no matter the ideological differences, because you seem to be good at finding common ground. I'm surprised you agreed with that. We agreed with each other so much in this video, but
Yeah,
it was very refreshing.
yeah, no, it's so long as we're working from a position of good faith. I know you're being honest in what you believe in and what you feel. Then it's not hard to eventually come to the same conclusions. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like you are being honest in your assessment of where it is. And so because I'm also being honest, we kind of naturally end up coming to the same conclusions. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
pretty much, pretty much.
We're operating with the same information and the same reality. So by that logic, if we're operating from the same information with the same foundation, it's really not that hard to naturally come to the same conclusion. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
yeah.
that's how I see it. It's like you know what I mean. And like I said, the disagreements come and lie. It's just even with the same information, we foundationally have different ideas on just people, how things work, or how things would
Yeah.
function, or you know what I mean. And that's conversation for another day.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And so everyone watching, man, here's what I found. There's a lot of times you got an ideological opponent that you want to get into it with. You'll find out when you look into it with them sincerely, you'll find out that you agree that you agree what position A is. You'll also probably agree what position B is, and you'll agree that we need to get from A to B. And then where you're going to find more of the disagreement and where a lot of the interesting conversation can come up from, or a lot of the interesting debate can happen, is when you find out that you disagree maybe how to take the path from A to B. But when you find out that you agree on point A and you agree you got to get to point B, then you know that you have a lot more in common with that person than maybe you initially thought. And man, trolling and slam dunking people on Twitter
Yeah,
can be fun,
yeah,
but the trolling doesn't get you very far. The trolling's good for a laugh, but if we want society to get better, if we want to see poverty go down, if we want to see people's wages go up, if we want to see people have more freedom and have the ability to exercise more personal responsibility, I think it's important that we have those good faith deep dive looks into what people see, where our starting point is, where our end goal or where our path should be aiming towards, what the goal should be. And then you can talk about how to get there. And you'll find a lot more common ground. You'll find a lot more progress to be made. And the more we do that stuff, the faster we're going to be colonizing Mars, and the
yep,
faster we're going to have, the faster we're going to find ourselves looking at poverty as ancient history. The
yeah,
more, the better off everyone's going to be, man. Is
yeah.
and people like Rico are helping us get there, is what I think, man, with these
Hey,
dialogues.
I try my best to show people how to do these things. I told you, I can say I will talk to damn near anybody. I will, regardless of whatever the issue is. And I would say my advice to all of you, as closing advice, to kind of caveat what you were just saying, is yeah, you want to have a kind of baseline understanding, mutual understanding on a certain thing. Like I said, I can't engage with somebody who believes the Capitol was actually insurrection was done by Antifa, it was an inside job by Antifa and FBI, the Democrats, the courts, and like everybody colluded to fucking, because that requires such a fucking monumental scale of bullshit that needs to be
Yeah,
unpacked. That you're up, you're here, you're wherever the fuck you are, and I'm down here. I'm like, I can't. There's nothing to work with there. You know what I mean? But
yeah, man.
if we both work from the foundation of, say, something that is objectively true, we easily prove something we both that is grounded in reality, like say the government response to this was bad. You know, like, okay, the government response to COVID was bad, or the government didn't go far enough, or something that we can prove, that is provable, that is grounded in reality. We can work from there. We
Mm-hmm.
have something to work with from there. You know, so that's how you got to know that difference on that is what foundation are we working from?
Hey, so one last question, and then we'll wrap it up. I know you were taking a hiatus on your channel, man. Do you have an ETA that you think you're gonna start doing videos again regularly? I think you were doing them every Sunday, right?
Yes.
When should we expect to see you coming back on that, or you not sure yet?
This I needed something to kind of rekindle my fire to do that,
Mm,
and I think this did it. So expect me back within the
yeah.
next week or two. This made me this brought it back. But now, whether or not it happens depends on my time management because I got a lot of
Sure.
shit. Like I said, I got a lot of shit I'm doing right now, so I need to get my schedule together so I can get back to be able to do that because I kind of overwhelmed myself with a lot of different stuff, and the balancing act became a little too much. So let me square some shit away over here. It's better manage my time, and I'll be able to do it again because I really do want to
Cool.
get back to doing these talks. I really love talking to people.
Yeah, man, and I'm looking forward to it. I'll just keep an eye on your channel. Everyone who's watching this now, all 86 of my subscribers, if you haven't subscribed to Rico Rants YouTube channel yet, do it now. He'll get back in the game sooner or later, and in the meantime, he's got a lot of great content that in the archive. Go through there, look at so many guests, a lot of wide variety topics. I know sometimes it gets boring just talking about capitalism and socialism all the time. He's got a lot of cool topics that he goes on, and he's got the same practical, nuanced, no nonsense analysis. And it's refreshing and it's fun to listen to. So everyone check it out, and don't forget to check out the Craven County Habitat Charity for the Neighborhood Revitalization Committee. If you can give just a little bit, please do it. You're going to help a lot of people, a lot of good people, and hey, I'm a fan of private charity, so everyone who's a fan of that, put your money where your mouth is.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, right on. Well, thanks again, Rico, man. We'll talk again soon, I'm sure, and I'll be keeping an eye out for when you get back into the stream game.
Hey, you know where to find me, brother. I'm a fucking message away.
Right on, man. All right, everyone, thanks for joining us. Yeah.
Y'all take care.